So the beauty of the Mass is so rich, but it is like a love relationship that we have. Every relationship goes through its up and downs. I remember when I'd gone for a retreat, the preacher was saying before he got married, there was this day when it rained heavily, this heavy pouring rain, but he had to meet the love of his life. And so he went through the rain and he walked. Trains were closed. There were no vehicles because Mumbai was flooded. And he walked quite some distance. I think he said from Elphinstone to Villaparle. And that's a long distance to walk in a flooded place, flooded roads. He went from there and he went to Villaparle, and because they had to meet, that was the love. And then he said, he got married in a few years. One day she asked me, can you go down and get the bread? And I said, it's raining outside. Something changed. And I think what changed is that we get used to even the person, even the person can become a routine. Mm-hmm. And that's something very similar that happens with the Mass. When we go to meet Jesus as this person, it's very possible that even Jesus and the Mass can become a routine. That's why in the book of Revelations, God is saying, He's telling them, return back to your first love. That's God telling us, return back to that romanticism, that romantic love that you had. Now you really want to go and meet the person. I realized this year when I received the acolyte. So as an acolyte, I can distribute Holy Communion in the parishes. And the first day when I went to the parish priest told me, okay, you wear the alb and go and distribute communion. So I went to distribute communion. The first day when I was giving, I was so excited. It says, I am giving the body of Christ. And I had this great smile on my face, body of Christ, body of Christ, body of Christ. A few weeks later, I think about 3 weeks later, I realized that when I distributed communion and came back to the sacristy, it became a routine. Okay, body of Christ, body of Christ, body of Christ. And I came back and sat in the chapel because I realized that what was so amazing to me has become a routine, has become, has become something that I just did out of because I had to do. And I went to my spiritual director and I told him, I am very scared that when I celebrate Mass, my first few Masses will be exciting. I'm celebrating the Eucharist. And then I'm afraid that when I celebrate the Eucharist, it will become a routine for me. And in a discussion, he told me, you've got to remind yourself every day that what you are going for is to meet Jesus Christ. What you're going for, you're going to the love of your life. You're going to the greatest desire of your being, what you really, really need. And now I keep reminding myself every night that I am excited for the next morning because there is Mass at 7:10 in the chapel. So before I sleep in the night, or I say my prayer in the night, I say, Lord, thank you that tomorrow morning, when I get up in the morning, you've kept the Eucharist ready for me. It's a privilege. It's like the people saying, I rejoiced when I heard them say, let's go to the temple of the Lord. So I remind myself, what a privilege. I rejoice that I'm come to the temple of the Lord. So that really helps me to not get stuck in the monotony of the Eucharist. Like, okay, I know the responses. But every response, or I try that every response becomes meaningful. So that's maybe one of the ways that we can possibly try and avoid the routine, not only in our Eucharistic life, but our Eucharistic life must overflow into our personal life. So you say, thank God I have this friend, I'm going to meet this friend tomorrow. Or thank God I have my mom and my dad, I'm going to meet them tomorrow. Lord, thank you so much for my spouse if you're married. So our Eucharistic life must flow into our daily lives.